Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm excited to be bringing you some more Humankind gameplay today. It is the weekend just before Christmas, and I finally had the opportunity to sit down and record a little bit of gameplay, hopefully through the end of an entire session, so we all have something to watch and chat about over the holiday season. It's been a busy few weeks here, so I apologize, there's been a bit of a lack of content, but I do have some more videos planned for after the holiday break, at least here in the United States. I don't know what the season looks like for people in other parts of the world, but at least here in the States, Christmas and the New Year are kind of a longer holiday, more than we get for most of the other rest of the year. So excited to go home and see some family, and then I'll be back for the new year for some more videos. Now, there has been a patch for Humankind within the last few weeks that has changed how the AI actually go up in eras. That's the most critical change, in my opinion. Because now what's happening is that the AI are actually putting off going up to the next era, which means they accumulate a lot more fame. And I'm talking like where before they would have 10, 11k fame at the end of the game, they'll pretty consistently manage like 14 to 16k fame by the end of the game. Because particularly in the ancient and classical eras, they're generating a lot more stars than they used to. They've also changed a few other AI behaviors, specifically how they attach territories. So the territories they do attach seem to at least make a little bit more sense now, though it's not perfect, but it is better than it was. Now, I put up a poll just before or maybe just after Thanksgiving here in the States asking what people were interested in seeing me play for my next playthrough. And just eking out over the One City Challenge was playing on 8 continents. So I am going to set up a game on a large map with 8 continents and 40% land percentage, normal pace as usual, and Humankind difficulty. As usual, I'm going to randomize my competitors. It doesn't really matter who I play against. I'll be able to handle it, hopefully. So I'll see you when we're loaded in. So here we are in the very start of the nomadic era. And let's talk a little bit about my strategy for this game. There are a lot of ways to approach 8 continents. There are various ways to do it, and the effectiveness is going to be a little bit different every game. You can go for a sort of isolationist kind of strategy. The issue you'll find with 8 continents is that you run out of land very quickly. You're not going to have enough land to sustain all the cities that you need. So I really think the dominant strategy on 8 continents is to pursue a more merchant-based game, because it becomes very difficult to invade other people early. Or to go for a more growth-based game. Both of those are something that the Phoenicians, for instance, are very capable of pursuing. It is one of those situations where, although I don't like the Phoenicians very much, they can really excel. But their early harbors in the havens, and the fact that they're a merchant really allows them to pursue both of those strategies. You can go for a more aggressive strategy and try to invade other players' continents, but it's a lot more difficult, and the pace of the game on 8 continents is going to be a lot slower than it normally is in other games. Now, here we've started on a river. It doesn't get us very far because there's a cliff right here. Unfortunately, this land is not looking very good for the Phoenicians, so something to keep in the back of our mind. Now, another option that I do really like on this sort of setup is the Babylonians. And the reason I like the Babylonians is that they're able to get tech into the next era, right? So what that means for the Babylonians is that they can actually research tech that allows them to embark their units in the ancient era rather than in the classical era, which means you can hopefully get to another continent much earlier. Now, what strategy we're going to pursue depends on what we manage to find lying around here. We do have dye, which is amazing. Dye in the early game is very good. Now, something to keep in mind if we want to pursue, say, the Phoenicians, is that the Phoenicians benefit a lot from a very early outpost placement with a lot of food. And this is generally true in any game you're going to play with the Phoenicians. The reason it's so good is twofold. First, the Phoenicians benefit a lot from having early population. Well, I guess this contributes to both of the reasons why. But that early population is really critical for the Phoenicians for two reasons. First is that the Phoenicians need a lot of science in the early game in order to get to the havens quickly. And the way you get science in the early game is through having a lot of population. So when you put the outpost down early, it has time to grow and you can put pops onto researchers. The other reason that they benefit a lot from really early outpost placement is that the pops that you're going to have are going to generate you influence. And the Phoenicians are a very influence-hungry culture without a lot of ways to generate influence, unlike, say, the Assyrians who get influence from their Dunu. Because the Phoenicians, you want to, be getting as many territories as possible with good harbors, so you need to claim all those outposts, and you want to be influence purchasing those havens as early as possible. So the Phoenicians end up being very influence hungry, and by having that extra pop at the start of your game, it's going to allow you to get all the things that you want earlier. Now, I might be able to take this. I'm going to try, even though I only have one. See if it starts there. Okay. So I'm going to end my turn there, and if it stays on the river, which it will, so I'm going to have high ground and it's going to have crossing river. So hopefully, normally you can't take it on with one tribe member anymore, the mammoth, but now I might have to end my turn. If I have to retreat, that's fine. I can come kill it on another turn. It's no big deal. I don't lose my unit. And my unit will recover health while the mammoth does not. But the mammoth used to be soloable. It's not really anymore. So just have to bear that in mind sometimes. It's still a change I'm getting used to an extent. Let's see. Should be able to... right, I'm still retreating. So I'm going to give that guy a turn. Right now, I'm not sold on the Phoenicians at the moment, just based on tile. Though, that's not too bad for a haven in there, to be honest. They could still be a good pick. I do like to play the cultures that I haven't played before, right? At least not on stream. I've played every culture in the game at some point or another, some more than others. However, I do like to play the ones I haven't played on stream before, and if there's going to be a game that I play the Phoenicians, it's going to be when you're playing 8 continents, right? So we are going to pursue the Phoenicians, I think, as long as it seems like a viable strategy and the Phoenicians are still available when we go up to the next era. The other options, Harappans can be very strong. Honestly, the Zhou can actually be quite good on 8 continents in the right situation. There are some that are not nearly as good. For instance, the Assyrians are probably like one of the lowest tier cultures on 8 continents. The Hittites are pretty bad if you're playing 8 continents. There are a lot of things you need to assess when you change the sort of game mode this dramatically. Now, the Hittites, of course, are pretty much always like that, but... Alright, so Violent Pursuits, I'm going to take this -2 food for the plus 25 experience, and now normally I like to... I don't value Violent Pursuits as much as I used to, right? Violent Pursuits used to give you a permanent buff to your... excuse me, I'm getting a little distracted. Used to give me a permanent buff to your combat strength on your units. It no longer does that. It now just gives you a little bit of experience. It's enough to get Veteran C1 at the start of the game, which is pretty good. And I wouldn't have valued that as much as the Phoenicians because I want that extra growth. However, with changes to the AI now and how they build so many more units than they used to, having even that minor edge can make a big difference, particularly on an 8 continents map, because it becomes very difficult to attack people very early, which is the main way that the player is able to get ahead of the AI. Let's see who's available. The Mycenaeans have been taken. I don't think the Zhou are the pick. The Olmecs are not very good here. Nubians would actually not be bad. Like, look at all these resources that I have. But I think I can get just as much value out of it as with the Phoenicians this game. Maybe not quite as much gold generation, to be honest, but I do think the growth pays off later. Now, if I really want to go hard into growth, I could also pick the Harappans, right? Because the Harappans get the +1 food on tile producing food, which also applies to harbors. So if I go for an early harbor, that means I'm getting an extra 1 food on all the tiles I'm getting food from on my harbors. Other options, Babylonians, I've mentioned already. I do think they are quite good. The Babylonians benefit a lot from having time to kind of sit back and build a bit. And that is something that you have the opportunity to do when you're playing 8 continents. I'm going to go ahead and go after this mammoth here. Should be able to take him on with 2 tribes here. Okay. So let's get my rear attacks. I've got a little coffee, so I apologize if there's some background noise. I know some people call me insane for drinking coffee at, 6 in the evening, but I don't know. I just like coffee. Sometimes it puts me to sleep, honestly. Okay, so there's another population. I might give this one more turn, because I'd like to found another outpost. That one's not bad either. But I think... So I have a lot of dye there. This gives marble and porcelain. I really like having a resource that generates gold as a merchant. So I think I'm going to prioritize this territory here. Now, something to know about 8 continents is that... I mean, this is really personal preference, I suppose, but on 8 continents, your cities are going to be smaller. You want to typically be like 1 ahead of your city cap, right? So if you have a 2 city cap, you want 3 cities. You don't have a lot of territory to support these really big cities like you do on a normal continents, like say you're playing 2 with New World on or off, or if you're playing Pangea or something like that. So a lot of your cities are only going to be like they're going to be a lot smaller than they would be on a normal sort of map size. Could have sworn there was a better spot, but I guess there wasn't. Maybe I do go for this territory, because it does have 2 dye, and dye is really exceptional at the start of the game. Okay, it'll be another turn, but that's not a problem. Let's separate that. Whoop. I meant to separate you, thank you. I don't really need any more scouts. I'll be in a gold deficit at the start of the game at this point anyway. It'd be really nice to get the legacy traits, though. See if I can pick it up. Okay, so we'll give this 1 turn. And let's see if we can find any more curiosities. This mammoth is in my way. I was hoping to get down. There we go. Sometimes the curiosities can give 2 progress rather than 1. I was not so lucky this time. Let's see if I can get lucky down here. Doesn't look like it. Feels really bad to get to 9 and then not get it. So I guess I'm going to be going out quite late this game, because I do value that extra science per population, in particular if you're pursuing a heavy growth game, which I think I'm going to be doing here. Now that there have been changes to district cost scaling, it's not as bad as it was with Fabius Maximus. However, it does make population a little bit more important to really supplement your outputs. So I value growth more than I used to for longer than I used to. Now, by the end of the game, it's not as important. as just building more districts. But at the start of the game, those population can help a lot. Okay, let's get our legacy trait finally. And we are going to go for astronomy for that +1 science per pop. And we are going to take the Phoenicians. There we go. I'm going to start moving everyone around, get some exploration done. We have a lot of good early game luxuries here, particularly the dye. Ebony's pretty good. Definitely got lucky on my luxury resource spawns on this run, which is really, really nice. How much is it to drop? 60? Might be worth it, honestly. Let's see. Well, I want to select that one. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and drop another outpost. Once you get your first city, getting your outposts up gets pretty expensive. So I think your first 3 are less expensive. Really your first 2 after your original one, right? And then after that it more equalizes. But I like to get those early outposts down as soon as possible. We're going to just keep these guys around. Don't need everyone exploring. We'll be disbanding some units eventually. And up here, this is going to be our first city. 14 food and 7 industry. Let's drop someone onto industry right away and get our pottery workshop. And then we will go for a maker's quarter. Once I get that pottery workshop, I'm going to reassign that person onto science so I get into fishing right away. Now I can already get a religion. And I mentioned earlier that on 8 continents, you're going to have more cities with less land. So normally the way to assess this, and you'll do this every time, right, is when you have cities, when you're picking between polytheism and shamanism, where they produce an equal amount of faith is when you have 3 territories per city, including the original territory. So the main city and 2 attached territories. That's when they equalize, and at 4 territories per city is where the shamanism pulls ahead of polytheism. I can't pronounce anything tonight, apparently. Whereas having 2 or fewer on average, below 3, is where polytheism is better. So we have 2, 4, looks like 6, 8 territories in total, probably going to fit 3 cities on here. So in this case, polytheism is going to be better. Now, sometimes you don't always assess it like that because the initial boost of faith is more important than the long-term faith output. So you will still select the +6 faith on city center, even when the other one gives you more faith later in the game. Particularly true on things like Pangea, or on continents rather. On Pangea, you tend to be pretty separated from other people, so it's not as important. But on continents where you spawn really close to other players, that boost of faith very early can be very important to your game. Alright. So I'm just going to disband this guy, honestly. And let's move you over here. Just going to idle these guys. And I'm going to put the rest of these on auto explore. I'm going to use these guys to move around and grab territory as needed. And we're going to get our early natural rights and legitimacy to reduce the outpost founding cost and increase our influence generation a little bit. So let's go on expert policy here. We're going to prioritize science and industry, but keep 1 guy permanently on industry. At least for now, until the pottery workshop's done. So temporarily on industry really is the word that I'm looking for, not permanently. And let's get a city right here. So, or an outpost, I should say. So as far as how I want to configure my cities, definitely want 3 cities in here at minimum, but possibly 4. So how would I figure that out? So I think these two territories together make the most sense, right? Maybe these 3. And then these 4. It's a little awkward. So maybe, This is something you want to plan early. It's harder to come back from mistakes on a continent, in my opinion, because the early game's a lot slower. When you have opponents that are on your continent, you can always just conquer other people, right? So it's not that big of a deal if you don't have perfect placement of everything, but you're really going to slow yourself down quite substantially on 8 continents if you are not living up to your potential, so to speak. Halong Bay, huh? Where's that? That's over there. Okay, so there's an island chain with the natural wonder out there, and unfortunately we're not going to be able to claim that until the next era. So not much we can do about it right now. So territories. Army composition. I'm going to save that. We don't have any need for army strength yet, or combat strength, and the Liberty Axis isn't going to give us anything yet either, because we don't have any emblematic districts, but we will get those soon. This is a great territory for multiple harbors in here. So let's work on getting that next. So maybe as far as territories, we do... What if we just did these 2 right here? These 2 right here. Then maybe these, like these 3 and these 2 here. I think that makes sense. I think we can make that work. Though this is going to be a smaller city. Maybe we just leave those unattached. Just extract the luxuries. Whoops, did not mean to move you up there. I've noticed that the units seem a little less responsive to being moved when they're already being moved than it was earlier. I'm not sure if that's all in my head, but it's just something I feel like is true at the very least. Okay, so need more influence, that's fine. So let's influence purchase this one down here. So, okay. So we definitely want like these 2 territories attached, I think. Maybe? I prefer to... Hold on. Not sure why I can't place a harbor right there. Oh well. So that harbor is going to be a lot more efficient if these 2 territories are attached right here. So maybe we do Byblos, this territory, and this territory, kind of make a longer city along the coast here. Do these 2, and then do something with these territories. And not a great start for my harbors, to be honest. Need to really attach some territories. Yeah. Plop that there. This will benefit a lot once I get some more territories attached to each other in a city. Really wish I could actually preview outposts without needing the influence to buy them. We're going to grab calendar, obviously. I have a lot of dye specifically, as well as some other luxuries that are going to be really nice for this run. And now that we have the 2 techs that we really need, I'm going to move someone off of science to give me some extra production that I really need. Okay. Need a little more influence before I can get this next outpost. Okay. Well, looks like I'm in a good spot up here already. 8 and 13 right there. Okay, there's calendar. And we should go for irrigation for the extra food on rivers. We do have quite a few rivers in a lot of our core territories, so we'll benefit a lot from that. Alright, after the Haven, we are going to want these die. We're also going to want an obelisk fairly early in the game here. It would be really, really excellent if we could get Respect the Seas bounties. That would be amazing with all the Havens we're going to have. We'll see if it's actually going to come to fruition or not. And if I really want that, I also need to save up for another city. So I think I've got my core sort of outposts online. So I'm going to save up the rest of my influence for another city. I might buy a die right here, though, just to increase my industry. Going to buy that Haven. No point in sitting on all that money. Okay, let's move you down here. I'll probably claim one of these territories next. And I forget how much, 160. Been a little bit since I played. I think it's 160 for, well, obviously I just saw it's 160 for your second city, and then I believe it's 510 for your third city as far as influence goes. So, technology. Let's grab domestication, pretty cheap, and then I'm actually going to go into writing for the House of Scribes to increase my science output. Let's put you on industry as well, get those artisans' quarters cranked out. If I get enough die online, I can rely on those die to provide the core industry output that I need this game, and allow my workers to be doing other things. Okay. Got a builder star somehow. What's attacking me? I'll just instant that. I got my mob of scouts running around, and I need another couple turns before I can get a city here. So just double checking. So, yeah, these two, these three. Yeah, and then something with these four, or maybe these three, and then I attach this territory to Belos. I'm gonna have some long, winding cities this game. So, after I found my second city here, I am going to save up for army composition to move me to the Liberty axis. And I think I'm going to put the city center there. And then we'll start attaching those territories as soon as we can. I'm going to prioritize getting these artisans' quarters because unlike building, say, a maker's quarter, I'm going to benefit from the artisans' quarters in all of my cities rather than a single city. Now let's pick up... Oh. I'm actually going to go for leadership. It also moves me towards the Liberty axis, but gives me city cap, which I may be able to use sooner than the +1 combat strength. I could pick up a fishery, but I'm going to get horses online instead, specifically because I'll be able to build this infrastructure, which gives me some food per horse, and we're also going to want flood irrigation. Now, we are going to be building quite a bit of the harbor infrastructure this game as well. It's quite strong. Probably attach one of these soon. Okay, let's buy this harbor. Yeah, that's a great harbor right there. Get my things purchased there, and we'll probably attach side on to this territory next. Just like that, and that'll give us a lot of food output and a fair bit of science output as well. Okay, getting a lot of stars and things there. I also was the first to research writing, which is a competitive deed. Another reason I like to get it kind of early. I'll never say no to 50 fame. Now, I could go for sailing. I think I want bronze working for the copper first, and then I can go into sailing for the bireme, which will let me explore a bit. I can go up to the next era, but that's really not necessary yet, and I would prefer to have a haven in all these territories first. Just another bear. Okay. That's a little annoying. Let's see. Send one of you guys over there. Can they support another pop? They can. I'm going to disband this guy here. Let's put you into industry. And I'm going to get the pottery workshop, and then I'm actually going to go for the obelisk. So the obelisk is going to provide me stability, which will let me get a slightly larger number of territories attached, and I like having the obelisk early to try to compete for the respective seas bounties to get that extra growth. Okay, let's have you run away. Please don't chase me, bear. Let's see. Now this will probably be the city center. Maybe it'll end up being in this territory. I just want to found all the outposts because I want to get as many havens online as possible before I go up to the next era. That's really important for making sure you get the most out of the culture that you can. I think more so for the Phoenicians than for even several of the other cultures. There are some cultures where you really only need a few of the emblematic district to really make it worthwhile. The Phoenicians, though, you really want as many havens as you can get. Okay. So, yeah, I have someone going up there already, so we'll put another outpost down in this territory here. This territory, I'm not going to feel upset about if I don't get something in. That terrain isn't great for a haven. No big deal if I don't get one in there. I think right there is just fine. Just going to instant that. Get a little gold, and we'll take care of this layer as well, which will give us a little more gold. Okay, obelisk coming online soon. So we want to make sure we have a lot of growth. We want a lot of science. Let's go ahead and attach right here. Okay, that is definitely some negative food. Try to maintain that population. Well, no, not going to work. Even if I move these guys onto food, I'm still going to lose pop in a couple turns. It's fine. It's not a big deal. But we are going to continue to focus on growth. Remember, when you attach an admin center, you get one of each slot. And that's really important for your science in the early game, is making use of all those attached slots. Going to want to forge for sure. And I definitely would not mind a maker's quarter there either. And I wouldn't mind flood irrigation. Okay. So let's actually get these online. Some more dye, so I can continue to produce things efficiently. You can wait there. You can grab these things. And how much influence do I need? 110. It's not too bad. Okay. And I can also make biremes now, so I'll need to fit that into my production queue somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and disband this guy a little early. I will lose food for a bit, but I am going to get this animal barn before my food runs out, so that should be able to support most of my food needs there. Let's pick up masonry. Influence, thank you. Lucky guess. And I'm going to buy flood irrigation. That really helps resolve my food issues there. A fishery will be very beneficial as well. I'm just going to purchase that artisan's quarter too. No reason not to. And I'm actually going to get a bireme here. And that's not a very useful spawn point there. Let's use that one. Okay. Looking alright so far. Take a look at our stars. Should move some people from science onto money, right? Because I'm almost done with the tech tree here. And I'd really like to get my era stars for money. So let's move some people over onto those stars. I'm fine delaying my tech. The tech that I'm researching, these two, they don't really make any difference to my abilities in the ancient era here. So really not a big deal delaying those at all. Did I claim that? Yeah, I did. That's going to take forever to come online, and I'm not going to be in the era for 15 more turns. I need something that comes online early so that I am able to place the haven down. I'm going to go for the highest production in this territory. just because that's not going to be the city center. I'm going to keep them in shallow water for now, and just come down this way, because I know there's a little bit for me to explore that way, and that might connect to another territory. Alright. And that's the only territory I have left unclaimed. I'm not going to worry about a haven in this one. Haven's not going to be very good there. It's really not a big deal. Whereas in these other territories, I do really want to have one. So these two are going to be connected. So, like, right here is actually going to be better than it seems. This island chain may end up being connected at some point, but I know for sure this one will. So, like, right here is actually going to work some more tiles. So I'm going to place it right in there. And this haven... Oh, that's unfortunate. I think you can't place along cliffs with the harbors. Put this one a little farther away, so I should be working all the tiles along that coastline there. Could have paid a little bit more attention and had more efficient harbor placement, but alas. Let's get that ebony for more production. Really can't stress enough how lucky I got with some of these luxuries here. I got a really good set. Even have some salt up here. Okay. And continue to explore with that biome. Would really like to meet someone. Someone took the Huns for some reason. Absolutely god-awful pick on 8 continents. And as you can see, the AI accumulate a lot more fame early on. I have to say, though, don't fret. They still have issues scaling up, and in some ways that's for the better, because if they scaled up like a player does, they would get 21 stars in every single era, every game, because of the bonuses that they get, and that would just be impossible to keep up with as a player. But, you know, it does actually require some skill now to beat the AI in fame, whereas before it felt like, you know, a fairly average Humankind player could do it with some degree of regularity. So keep that in mind if you're used to playing on Humankind difficulty and you haven't played in the latest patch. It is a little bit more difficult now, particularly if, you know, your average fame was like 12 to 15,000 before. It's going to be a lot harder for you now. If you're more like me and you're looking at like 20 to 25,000 fame at the end of the game, there are definitely some more challenges early on in the game because of the size of the militaries that you encounter. But it's not going to be too big of a deal. Okay, so we're getting there on our merchant stars. And I'm going to go ahead and attach right here now. Okay, very low on food. Let's get the flood irrigation first. I want to try to avoid losing population. Don't need anyone on science. See if I can spot any other nearby territory down there. I can't. Okay. Go for the wheel. And we'll be looking to go up to the next era, basically once we get the third merchant era star. Obviously very important as a merchant culture. Get a lot of fame from that. And are there any... Okay, I don't have that yet. Am I missing any havens? Doesn't look like it. Any havens I can build? No and no. Okay. Byblos. Okay, I am going to get a fishery here. I'll eventually have multiple harbors, so this fishery will stack up nicely and it unlocks some things that I'm going to need later on. 13 industry right there is pretty good. I'm going to have to determine which cities I want doing what. I think Sidon, given the number of luxuries here, is a good candidate for market quarters. Go ahead and buy that flood irrigation. Gives me just enough food to maintain what I currently have. I might go for a granary this game, which is very, very rare on my part. Let's see. Respect the Seas bounty is still available. I need 2 more followers of my religion for that. Let's see. Yeah, this... Not really a lot of food. I was hoping I could get like a high growth outpost in here so that I could get more religious followers, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately. Okay, so we're done with the tech. Okay, we've gotten all the merchant stars. We're not going to get militarist stars this era, just not in the cards. I think we're at the point where we need to go up to the next era. Now, Carthaginians are still available. Do I want to play the Carthaginians? That's a good question. Do I have... I think the question is, do I have enough coastal tiles to justify getting like multiple unique harbors, like enough good locations? And I don't think the answer is yes in this location. I think I've already taken out most of the good locations with havens. So I don't value the Kothon as much as I might in certain other circumstances. I would still pursue it if I knew for sure I was going to get Respect to the Seas bounties. Though it seems like all the other tenets have been taken already. Which means that I am guaranteed to get that one. So that's interesting. Now the war elephants are very good. And it's very likely that I have iron, given I have a bunch of undiscovered strategics. The Axomites could be good as well. The +2 money on tile producing money, the Great Obelisk. Now, the issue with the Great Obelisk is that on maps like this, you don't have a lot of territory under your control, so it's not as good as it is on larger continents. Whoops. Goths are obviously not really an option here. The Achaemenids, in the long term, are good with the +2 city cap. The Romans, it's just not going to happen. I do think the Carthaginians may be my best pick. I could transcend as the Phoenicians if I really want to go for a ton of fame. I don't think I've done any transcension runs at all. I mean, that extra 10% fame is going to be for the entire game. Let me think about this. I do get a fair bit of industry from the Kothon, obviously, and the War Elephant is a very strong unit. I actually really would have liked to get the Celts, I think would have been good for me. The Greeks would have been very good as well, but both of those are taken already. Satrap's Palace. If I really want to lean into the gold game, and that'll give me a lot of influence as well, to help me keep up on my influence stars, which I think is going to be an issue as we get later into the game. It's hard to say no to War Elephants, though, and Hard Bargainers. Well, I think I've deliberated enough. I'm going to save the game just in case I change my mind as soon as I get into the next era. But I am going to take the Carthaginians this run. Slap that in, lock it in. Alright. And here we go. Looks like I've discovered someone. Don't know who yet. Wow, look at that. If only I had that for my harbors. And there we go. We've entered the classical as the Carthaginians. And we're going to get Respect to the Seas bounties, which is amazing for me. So up to 35 food there. Wow, 31 food, 13 production. Really, really strong. Respect to the Seas bounties is... in the right situation, it's honestly pretty overpowered. And, I mean, it's not as strong as it could be right now. I have seen better places for it, but it's still really good in this situation. I'm going to put it here because I might eventually attach this island chain, which will open up some more workable tiles. So, better long run return right there. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. We'll drop it right there, I suppose. And so we can go for a more long run payoff down here with these tiles. Might be worth it. Could also drop it right in here as well to work some of these. I think I'm gonna... well, this offers more production up here. Let's go for right here. I'm definitely going to be attaching this island chain into the city at some point, so I want that Kothon in there. And then, yeah, I mean, that's good enough, I suppose. Definitely not building that one. All right. So let's wrap the rest of these guys up, and we'll end the episode at the end of this turn. So we'll come back on turn 50, which is a nice little coincidence. I find I pretty consistently am in the classical era at like turn 49 to turn 51 almost every single game. Trade expeditions is going to be the priority for the transport galley, and then we are going to go down into standing army and mounted warfare. We are going to move people from money onto science for now. Don't really need anyone on food at this point. We're growing plenty as it is. And I'm going to buy that Maker's Quarter. Let's see, we'll need the fishmonger, but we'll worry about that in the next episode. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again in the next one at the start of the classical era with the Carthaginians.